And look at this, you can do the same thing, same theme, by Cuebiding. Your partner doesn't have to have opened the bidding. Your partner could have made an overcall. And for the most part, even though we know that overcalls can be a little lighter and that a one-level overcall does not have to be opening values, might be as few as 8 or 9 points, right? At the one level, like here. So, opponent opens a spade, opponent opens a club, your partner overcalls a spade, pass, and this comes around to you. All right, so remember, all the same things still apply. If you just want to make a single raise, like 6 to 9 points, you would just bid 2 spades, right? 6 to 9, 6 to 10 maybe, if it's kind of a flat 10. Anything that you judge to be invitational or better, typically 10, 11 plus, you can start with a Cuebid. Even though we know that your partner doesn't necessarily have an opening hand, we still treat it the same way. So, good 10 or 11 with at least 3 card spade support, you can start with your Cuebid of the opponent's suit. Would you ever want to use 2 clubs here naturally? Yeah, maybe on rare occasion they opened a shorter club suit and you actually have a good 6-card club suit and you'd like to be able to bid 2 clubs naturally. That won't happen very often, and so we don't worry about it. If you have long clubs, you are just going to forego that, being able to show that, or at least being able to show it very easily, because your 2 club bid here is going to be 3 or more spades, and usually 10 or more points. And notice that this is very useful because if your partner has in fact made a pretty minimal overcall, if that 1 spade overcall is just some 8, 9, 10 point hand with 5 spades that just wanted to sneak into the auction, your partner gets to sign off at 2 spades if they want to, right? If we invited the old-fashioned way, if you will, if we had to jump to 3 spades, we would kind of be punishing partner, getting a level higher. We'd be punishing partner for having made a minimal overcall, right? And we don't want to do that. So, now, like our previous Cuebid, this is limit raise or better. So it may be that you always want to be in 4 spades, even if partner has the worst possible overcall. But you start with 2 clubs, see what you can find out about partner's hand, and then if you still want to bid 4 spades, if your hand's good enough, you can. Or if you want, we'll look at a couple of examples where maybe sometimes you bid your 2 clubs here as an invitation, partner turns you down and bid 2 spades, and you want to make 1 more game try. You can do that. If it's like, okay, partner, I know you said you had a pretty minimal overcall, but are you sure? Because I've got a really good dummy for you. Same thing here, and now we're just bidding both majors this time. 1 spade. Now this time partner's overcall was at the 2 level, so they bid 2 hearts. Well, you could Cuebid 2 spades, and that won't get you past 3 hearts when partner doesn't want to accept your invitation. But of course, if partner wants to accept your invitation, they can jump to 4 hearts, right?
Shouldn't you assume if he overcalls 2 hearts that he's got pretty close to an opening?
Now, yes. Now, I do expect, especially vulnerable, a 2-level overcall to be a full opening hand, or if not a full opening hand, there better be something else special about this hand, like a 6th heart or a 7th heart or something like that. Singleton or void in the opponent's suit, something that would make it more attractive. But yeah, we definitely do expect, especially vulnerable, we expect overcalls at the 2 level to be better than overcalls at the 1 level.
And generally, there's going to be that pass in between, right?
This opponent could get involved, which could make things more difficult for you. It might take away the ability for you to make the bid that you want. For example, even if this person here bids a fairly innocent looking two spades,
Uh-huh.
well, now you can't make your Cuebid without forcing the game, can you? What do you do now? Right? I mean, you could bid 3 hearts, but that's really just competitive and is not an encouraging partner to bid a game. Or you could go ahead and say, you know what? Throw caution to the wind. We are going to game. And bid 3 spades.
Okay.
I hope what that tells you is it can actually really pay to raise a little bit light here. That's why sometimes, especially if I'm not vulnerable, even if I have some crummy 5 count with a few spades, I like to get involved there. Hopefully partner won't, partner knows how to take a joke. Partner doesn't go crazy when you give her a raise. But realize, that even something as innocent looking as that can create a problem for the advancer when they have a good hand and support for partner. Now, what about this auction down here? I gave you the same auction with a failure to Cuebid, and we just had you raise partners' hearts from 2 to 3. What kind of hand does advancer have here?
6 to 9.
Should just be like 6 to 9, right? Now, you may think to yourself, do I really want to raise partner to the 3 level when I'm less than invitational? Partner's overcall could be very good. Remember, the overcall could be minimal, but overcalls are pretty wide ranging. And partner could have a good 16, 17 over here. And you would want to be in game. And so this is what we often refer to as the courtesy raise. You may think, hey, I've got my 7 points and 3 hearts, partner overcalled hearts. I'm happy with that. We're in a good spot. Pass. And I understand the desire to pass. And maybe you're thinking, if the opponents get back in, I'll compete to 3 hearts. But, and many of you have heard me say this before, if you're always willing to compete to 3 hearts, I think you should bid it now. Because your partner's overcall could be a really nice hand. And maybe all they need to know is that you have a couple of pictures over there and some hearts. And that's all they need to know to bid a game. Yeah, Mike?
Instead of the 3 hearts, could you just say 2 spades?
So 3 hearts is going to be a lesser hand than the Cuebid. Right? So on this auction here, so what the immediate raise to 3 hearts, not going through the Cuebid, usually a good 6 to 9, and if it's kind of a crummy 6, you might just pass. Maybe you want it to be a little more constructive. Maybe you want it to be like 7 to 9, and that's reasonable. And then anything that is like 10 plus, now you can use your Cuebid. That's the distinction we're making here. And of course, following all of our other Cuebid standards, you've got at least 3 card support. Maybe you have 4 card support, but it's kind of hard to make that distinction without adding in some other conventional gadgets that you probably don't want to worry about for now.
And other thing that's really important to remember is if your partner doesn't Cuebid, don't go wild because they could have Cuebid and they didn't. So
Yes,
don't go crazy.
always want you thinking about it, and we always want you thinking in those terms.
Yeah.
What could partner have done that partner failed to do?
Right.
Say if your partner thought the hand was worth a limit raise, they would have made the limit raise. Now, along with this, we can also do the same thing that we did before, and we can have now, because it is no longer invitational, we can have the jump raise now be weak, right? So that is typically how people are playing this now. If you jump to 3 spades, this is a weak hand. Now remember that our preemptive raises should have 4 card support. We don't typically want to do this with 3. We want to stay within the law of total tricks. We like this to be a 9 card fit. And you might say to yourself, well, when all partner did was overcall, why would I want to get us this high with a weak hand? Well, on an auction like this, the opening, one of two things could be going on. Partner could actually have a very good overcall. While we have to be prepared for this to be maybe an 8 or 9 or 10 point overcall, this could be a 16 or 17 point overcall. And 3 or even 4 spades may be a great contract here, because partner actually has a very good hand. If you have a weak jump and partner's overcall is minimal, what's going on this hand? Opener has a really good hand, and you have just made their life miserable. For all we know, this is their 4 heart hand, but you've made it a lot difficult for them to try, or their 5 club hand, whatever. And this would apply even if responder bid. So let's say responder got into negative double. Okay, well now if they have a 4-4 heart fit, they're gonna know about it, but your 3 spade is still creates some problems for them, right? Because now they may have to decide, should we bid 4 or not? Now this may be very hard to tell. What if the opener has 4 hearts, and so they have the fit, but what if opener doesn't have a great opening hand? What if opener only has, 14 or 15 point hand? Should they be bidding 4 hearts here? I mean, this negative double could just be 6 or 7, right? Could be minimal. So you still put them under some pressure by bidding this way. So we're trying to keep this all consistent. We're trying to keep your single raise as being that courtesy raise that is not invitational. The Cuebid as always being invitational or better. And the jump raise as being weak.
So do you go to the law of the highest law? If you have 5 spades there, do you go?
Yeah, if I had 5 spades in particular, if I had 5 card spade support for partner and a singleton on the side, I would probably shoot out 4 spades.
Okay.
Maybe it makes. Maybe it's a good sacrifice. Maybe the opponents were about to bid 4 hearts, and now we make them guess. So yeah, I would typically
Okay.
adhere pretty steadily to the law of total tricks. In that
Even with
situation.
unfavorable vulnerability?
I'm going to proceed a little more carefully at unfavorable. But if we have a 10 card fit in spades, it's not always the easiest thing for them to double, because in that case they're probably not going to have much in the way of trump tricks. So yeah, proceed a little more carefully. Sometimes a hand, if you're red and they're white, sometimes a hand that you would otherwise bid 4 spades, you might just bid 3. You could do that.
A little white lie.
Well, it's more of a judgment call. Remember, you are not absolutely compelled. I mean, the same thing would apply to like a week 2, right? I mean, have you ever had a week 2 bid, or a hand that would normally make a 3-level preempt, but you were at unfavorable vulnerability and maybe the suit wasn't that good? So you said, nah, instead of opening 3 hearts, I'm just going to open 2. I mean, that's a reasonable judgment call to make.
But if I make that judgment call, if I have 5 spades and say, I'm going to go 3 now, can I bid again and go to 4?
I don't think you should.
Thank you.
I think you
Okay.
just decide what the limit of the hand is and you bid it right away.
Just
Unless you like getting doubled for penalty.
got it.
But I want to make it harder for them to double for penalty. So,
Got it.
so let's look at let's look at